And good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel. Got to let the bumper music go away before I kick it back over to station audio, because I'll be darned if I'm going to let YouTube kick this video out and ban this. So for those of you who've been listening, we're talking about the story that 95.3 MNC and then ABC 57 were covering today, that there was a Church of the National Knights of the Ku Klux Klan that was left at a gas station in town. And I thought it was a little curious that ABC 57 was kind of blurring out everything, and then that they didn't attempt to at least contact the individual who's on the card. With the help of some listeners, we found the individual on the card, and he has agreed to do an interview with us. So we are actually going to talk with the person on the card, and his name is Dwight. That's all the information I'm going to give to everybody. Dwight, first of all, I want to thank you for being patient, being on hold, and for doing the interview with us.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the first thing that we had to ask was, one, is this you? And two, did you, in fact, leave the card at the gas station that everybody's talking about on the news?
Yes, that is me, and yes, I did leave that card at the gas station. However, it was not done in the manner that was said it to have been. ABC gave an interview to some man who they blurred his identity, who said he saw it all happen, and I ran from pump to pump and then jumped in a white van and sped off.
Okay.
There was no white van involved. I didn't run from pump to pump. I casually stood there and pumped gas into my vehicle while I slid the cards in.
So you did do multiple cards. It wasn't just the one card.
I left one in the credit card slot of every single pump at that gas station.
Okay. So did you do this before or after you pumped your gas?
While my gas was pumping.
While the gas was pumping. Okay. And so no running away, no hiding, nothing. You are who you are. You're proud of who you are, and you put them up on the gas station. Is this a recruitment tool? Let people know that you guys are out there and still in town?
Partially, yes.
Okay. Any other reasons?
I mean, constantly hearing about Black Lives Matter doing this and these organizations doing that, and why can't we do something of similar fashions? Why can't it be known that we're still around too? I mean, Black Lives Matter is what, a handful of years old? We're over a 150-year-old organization, and nobody knows that we exist anymore. People think that we just faded away. Well, we didn't. We're still alive and well, and right here in your backyard.
Now, do you mind if I ask you what the membership numbers look like for your organization just here in our community?
I'm not going to lie. Our membership numbers have dwindled off some. We are in a rebuilding phase, and we're getting back up there slowly but surely.
So are we talking, a couple of dozen? A couple of hundred?
Couple of dozen.
Couple of dozen, okay. And, I mean, you understand, obviously, given the history of the KKK, why people might not equate you the same as other organizations that have kind of popped up. I know you mentioned Black Lives Matter, and yes, they are a violent hate group for the most part, but when people look at the KKK and the history of it and the things that happened in the past, you can understand why they would separate you guys out compared to what some of the other groups are doing today, correct?
I do understand that we are stigmatized because of what the KKK had been doing 150 years ago. But this isn't the 1800s anymore. You know, this is 2017. And sure, this is all brand new to a lot of the folks around here. They aren't used to seeing this type of thing. But when's the last time you've heard of a KKK demonstration anywhere in the country that has gotten violent by the KKK?
I mean, that is true. The past several demonstrations, the violence has been instigated by the other side. I mean, that's a fair point to make. Wasn't your group implicated in a possible murder plot in the early 2000s?
That was not the Church of the National Knights.
Okay, so I got that. I might have got that incorrect, and if I did, I apologize.
Yes, there are different factions of the Ku Klux Klan, and that of which you speak was not the Church of the National Knights.
Nope.
That was a different faction entirely.
And again, we're talking with Dwight. Are you a Grand Dragon? Is that the appropriate title?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're talking with Dwight, who is a Grand Dragon of the Church of the National Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, based here in South Bend. Again, this was a news story that Dwight had left some cards at a gas station. I thought it was just one card, but he's told us that he left several cards there. And some of the other stuff in the story was incorrect based on the witness who was talking to the news. So you kind of mentioned that your organization has been stigmatized because of stuff that happened back in the 1800s. So, I mean, what is different about the modern KKK, your chapter in particular, that you would say would, I don't know, deviate away from the historical perceptions of the KKK that you would want people to know about?
150 years ago when the KKK was started, those individuals were running around lynching people. And
you don't want to do that.
Correct. No. I mean, here's the take on it. We're, as I said, we're a purist organization. We're about keeping the bloodline pure. We're not about eradicating other races or committing genocide. We're about keeping our own race from suffering genocide.
Now, I have to ask this, since these TV commercials are all over the place. Have you had the heritage DNA test done?
Yes.
And you're pure?
Yes. German, 100%. Through and through, both sides of the family, all the way back.
So why not, if you are deviating away from the history, and you've become, would it be fair to say that you've become more of a political movement than an actionable violent movement? That would be fair to say?
Yes.
So yes. Why not start an organization that doesn't have that negative stigma of the KKK then, and move in a different direction, just wholly separate yourself from that stigma to begin with?
Well, to be honest, there are a lot of the beliefs with the KKK that I still stand behind. Obviously, as I said, not the lynchings and this and that, and the way things were carried out 150 years ago when Nathan Bedford Forrest and his men began these organizations. A lot of things have changed, and it's been kind of a family trait. There's a lot of ancestors of myself that were in this organization, so it's kind of what I was raised around.
Okay.
And my take on it is this, and again, as I was saying, we're a purist organization. I mean, lions and tigers are both cats, correct?
Correct.
But they don't mate. They don't even hang out together in the wild.
Well, in the wild, we do have ligers, yeah, but in the wild,
which were man-made. I mean, they didn't do that on their own. Mm-hmm. You know, science created that. But see, animals weren't given the freedom of choice and free will as mankind was, and mankind has chose to deviate outside of their races and their creeds and their heritages. I mean, it says in the Bible that we're to be fruitful and we're to make more after our own kind. When Abraham was looking for a wife for his son, he didn't tell his servants to just go pick up any old girl from the next city over. He said, no, I want you to go way over miles and miles and miles away to my homeland and get someone from my people to marry my wife, because he knew how important the bloodline was.
But with the freedom
we're trying to do.
But with the freedom of choice that you talked about earlier, I mean, it's okay to live one's life that way, but are you trying to prevent other people from living their life that way and making the choice to intermix if they wanted to?
I'm trying to keep the white bloodline pure and to keep from suffering genocide of the white race.
But not by force.
Not by force.
So you would be doing this through an educational effort, okay, and trying to convince people that your ideas are the correct ideas for various reasons, and then they could go ahead and hopefully, in your opinion, fall in line with what you're thinking.
Correct.
Okay. Is there anything that I am missing?
I mean, I don't know right off. This was kind of a spur of the moment thing.
Yeah, I know. We kind of blindsided. Yeah. We kind of blindsided. And here's part of it. You know, I'm covering this story. My station's covering it. We've got local news covering it. And the one question that I had was why they were blurring your information out on the news and nobody tried to contact you.
Well, to be honest, I called ABC and asked them that, because they did contact some coalition of anti-racist organization here in Michiana, and I asked, why did you contact them and not me? Well, they claimed that the screenshot of the card that they received already had that information blacked out, so they weren't able to contact me.
So they're saying that they didn't get the card, they got a picture of the card.
Correct.
Okay. Because that was the first thing that I was wondering is who on God's green earth wouldn't just try and contact you, and why would they contact somebody else? And that's exactly what they did. So you contacted ABC 57.
Yes.
And at that point, they offered to send a reporter to your house to talk to you, right?
Well, no, I offered. In fact, I was spoken to a couple other of the higher-ranking officers within the Ku Klux Klan, and were willing to sit down and do an interview for them. And the gentleman I spoke to at ABC said that he needs to talk to some of his higher-ups, and he might contact me back.
Okay, so he's got to go through the chain of command. Now, when did that happen?
This was just an hour ago, 2 hours ago.
All right. So it's fair that maybe they didn't get the approval yet from management to do this.
Sure.
All right, fair enough. And is there anything in the story other than what we had covered that might have not been accurate based on what the witness was telling the news that maybe I missed that you'd want to get out there too?
As I said, I mean, there was no witness, for one. The man probably came across the card and made the story up to include himself in it.
So nobody else was there when you were doing this?
Correct. There was nobody at the pumps. It was fairly late. I don't believe there was anybody else in the store other than the clerks, or anything such as that. There was no white van that the witness spoke of. And
do you leave these cards on a regular basis around town like this, or is this the first time you've done it in a while?
No, I drop them off. If I'm strolling through a grocery store or something, I might head off into the magazine aisle and drop a few in a Guns and Ammo magazine, or a Field and Stream, or stuff them in a gas pump credit card slot here and there.
Now, why do you pick those magazines, though?
Well, because those are magazines where we might be more likely to find people of similar mindsets. That's where we believe we're going to find more people that would be interested in.
Is that because you guys are interested in that, or do you have actual research that shows that?
Well, we've done a little bit of research, and I mean, those are the types of magazines that, for the most part, the hardworking blue-collar white guys are picking up and reading. I mean, it wouldn't do us any good to run around and put them in Ebony magazine. You see what I'm saying? We're going to want to put them somewhere where they're going to be read by a demographic such as ourselves.
Okay. Well, Dwight, first of all, I know we kind of ambushed you, and I appreciate your patience and coming on and actually doing the interview and clarifying some questions that we had about the story going out there. And we appreciate your time, man. Thank you much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Right, you take care. There you go. Dwight, Grand Dragon of the Church of the National Knights of the Ku Klux Klan here in South Bend. The story is real. He did leave those cards, and he freely admitted it on this program. We got more coming up. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
KC Hendrickson, News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
Your breaking news and weather station.
News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel, and Martin's Supermarkets. Another couple minutes when he comes.